Hello there. Welcome to another video. My name is Doomba, and today we'll be looking at Ender Lilies Quietus of the Nights, developed by AdGlobe and Livewire. Going to be a different style of video today. All of the gameplay will be pre-recorded, and I will be speaking over the gameplay rather than speaking as I play. So this is mainly to avoid the story spoilers and to show you multiple zones by phasing through the different scenes. Also, there just wasn't a whole lot to discuss while actually in the game. It's a standard 2D side-scrolling Metroidvania game with a look and feel similar to that of Dark Souls. You are a young priestess who wakes up in a world that is ravaged by a plague known as the Blight. You wake up with a night spirit watching over you who vows to protect you through it. Your goal as the priestess is to discover what in the hell happened, explore the map, and pick up notes that put together more and more of the story. So far, it's been more of a series of backstories that put together many small pieces of a huge puzzle. These backstories are perhaps visions of your past, or they're stories of the spirits you can meet that can join you on your travels and protect you. Getting ahead of myself here, I haven't explained the gameplay. As I said, it's a standard 2D side-scrolling platformer game with some Metroidvania and Dark Souls elements mixed into the general gameplay loop. You, as the young, innocent priestess, do not fight enemies. You may heal yourself with a set number of heals you get between resting zones, but the fighting is done by spirits that travel with you. You can equip 3 different spirits per build and have 2 different builds that you may switch between with the click of a button. The Night Spirit watching over you is the basic attack, the swishing of the sword on front of you. There is an RPG aspect, being the more you kill enemies, the more EXP you get towards gaining levels. Higher level means more attack and more health. By traveling around the map, besides fighting through mob enemies, you may also run into corrupted spirits, little mini bosses, and you must fight them and purify them in order to get them to wish to protect you, thus joining you on your long journey. Spirits can have alternative abilities such as wide AoE attacks or perhaps lobbing bombs on enemies, all very useful when fighting hordes of undead or blight creatures. Many of the spirits have a limited number of uses, so you cannot spam them in fighting. You do have to be somewhat strategic. That limited number does get replenished when you get to rest at a bench, bed, chair, etc., which are placed periodically throughout the map. When resting at one of these stations, you get many different options besides standard replenish your health, healing spell count, and finally save. You can choose to fast travel between resting spots, you can upgrade your runes or the gear you can get, enhance your spirits, or even change the builds to fight with new spirits. The gear you can find all over the map gives you extra health or extra spirit uses, as just 2 examples. Now that we've gone through the basic game mechanics, let's talk about what makes this game similar to that of Dark Souls, since that's the pretty bold claim to make. Well, in my opinion, 1 is the unforgiving difficulty, and 2, the fact you can run into little mini-bosses randomly around the map. You could easily encounter an enemy that you're in no shape to face. There's no set pathway to follow, everything branches out, so you can just easily find yourself in a zone full of enemies vastly stronger than you. Speaking of zones full of enemies, there is a very large variety attached to these enemies. I was very surprised to see every zone having their own set of enemies with their own gimmicks to learn and follow. This transitions into some of the things I liked very much about the game. Yes, we are at that part of the video where the review sets in. I will say the game originally had me dumbfounded. I thought it was incredible, as the art looks amazing, the music is gorgeous, the story seems well put together, the fighting and spirit system seem very fleshed out. I've played many different Metroidvania-style games recently. Almost all of them put me to sleep because they don't give me a reason to keep playing. All this being while Ender Lilies did keep me reeled in. I wanted to know more of the story. I wanted to see more of the world and what happened. I wanted to see what other spirits there were and hear different kinds of music for other zones. The aesthetic of the game is what kept me interested past the initial wall I encounter with many of these types of games. Now, I am saying a lot of this in past tense. I was interested at first and everything seemed fleshed out. Because the game does have cracks the more you play through it. While there may be gorgeous tunes or lullabies, they do get quite old quickly when put on loop. I found myself getting sick of a couple of songs as it was clear exactly when it was looping. Many other games make it so that you're not certain when the music loops. Ender Lilies makes it painfully obvious to the point where the music becomes no longer charming. Another sound issue I have is none of the enemies make sounds, no grunts or roars or even crows cawing. You hear the effect noises like swishing of your sword. When you hit an enemies, you hear the blood splatter. You can hear wings flapping when a large fellow jumps and makes a thud onto the floor again. It's so off-putting how I'm fighting these undead monsters and no other sounds can possibly be heard. There are sound problems, there are gameplay mechanic problems. To name a few, I said before the fighting is very fleshed out. You will be spamming the dodge button as much as you possibly can. Hitboxes seem somewhat off, as oftentimes I get hit by projectiles with plenty of space between it and me. There does not seem to be a reason for there to be levels in the game. There are no level walls where you must be level 20 in order to enter a specific area or anything like that. It just seems to be an RPG edition that lacks purpose other than just to make enemies meat shields when you first encounter them. As much as I want to chalk these problems to minor flaws with the game, I am steadily approaching the point where Ender Lilies has the same effect on me as other recent Metroidvanias I've played. As I have become steadily bored, not wanting to explore more and more of the map or learn more about the story. All of the elements of a fantastic game are present. They are right there. You can clearly see them, hear them, feel them, but I feel they lack cohesion. I still have a sense of awe with Ender Lilies. It's still a gorgeous game with some key flaws that can pull you right out of the beautiful world the devs have created. This brings me to the closing statements of the game. I have a strange duality of ideas towards it. There is little to no replayability unless you really want to experience the same sections of the game utilizing different spirit builds. So for most players, the game will be a one-time experience with a lot of backtracking. Is that a bad thing? Well, it can be given the cost, being $25 on Steam. It's also available on Nintendo Switch, PS4, Xbox One, as well as the Series X and S. I recommend at the very least trying it, but do keep in mind there is a lovely functionality to be able to return games as long as you have not reached the 2 hours of playing mark on Steam. This game is confusing, fantastic, except something missing. These are my thoughts of the game. You can, of course, disagree. Ratings are, for the most part, of course, through the roof, going as far as to call the game a masterpiece. I personally would not call it a masterpiece, but it is an experience worth trying. If listening to this enticed you to purchase the title, I do in the end recommend it. My name is Doomba. Thank you for joining me today. If you liked the video, then feel free to press the like button or the dislike button if you absolutely hated it. Leave a comment and subscribe. Hit the bell to see more of my content when it comes out. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And goodbye.